Americans are weighing in this Monday on the race for 2024 and a potential rematch between President Biden and former President Trump. A new poll asking registered voters if the president and former president are healthy enough. We're talking about their age, but more than that, healthy enough to serve. Now, 42% say that Donald Trump is healthy enough, that only Donald Trump is healthy enough, while 16% say that only Joe Biden is healthy enough. 12% of voters say both of them are healthy enough, but here we go. 29% say neither of them are healthy enough to be president.
Well, that doesn't look good. Well, joining us now to discuss this poll is our panel, former vice chair for the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women and host of Money Talk with Melanie, Melanie Collette, and lawyer and GOP strategist Ford O'Connell. Ford, we're going to start with you. The president, when 72% of voters say you're not fit to serve, what's your reaction to that poll? That's not necessarily a good look, right?
It's nearly impossible to get 72% of Americans to agree on anything. And what 72% of Americans agree on is that Joe Biden is incapable to serve another 4 years as president. They don't believe he has the ability or agility to be commander in chief. Frankly, you throw in the Reuters poll that shows Trump leading by 6 points in the battleground states. And I'm going to tell you right now, Democrats are panicking. They don't know what they're going to do. They want Joe Biden to bow out, but if Joe Biden doesn't bow out, they're stuck with him.
Melanie, on the flip side, have to address it. 59% in that poll say that former President Trump isn't fit to serve either. And by fit, we're literally talking about their health. Could you see a possibility, a world where this hypothetical rematch doesn't come to be in next November? And who could possibly replace either one or both of them?
I think it's going to be these two, because despite that, people are really dug in from a partisan perspective. So despite the way people feel, if it ends up being Trump-Biden, one of two things are going to happen. People are just not going to show up to the polls because they're so, just upset and disappointed about the two that we have on the ballot. And Biden probably ends up winning again, unless that third party situation puts up a candidate, then it'll split the vote, and perhaps Trump can win that way. But I think it's a bad look for the leadership in both parties to not be able to put up a candidate that both sides can support, that both sides can be excited about. It does speak to, our two-party system and what is going on with the political side. I also think that those people who said that President Trump was not fit to serve, they are referring to his mental fitness, because they feel as though his personality is an unfit personality. And I think that that's part of the calculus there.
Ford, yeah, before we move on topics here, I want to clarify. There's a difference between age and ability, right? Correct? There's the cognitive decline.
I disagree with that, Bob. In terms of how this survey was conducted, a lot of people take age and health to be the same thing. They believe that Donald Trump is healthy enough. And Donald Trump is leading in the 7 swing states that matter by 6 points over Joe Biden. It's Democrats and Americans as a whole that say that because of Joe Biden's age, he doesn't have the ability and agility to do the job for another 4 years. Heck, they're not even sure he's going to finish out this term.
Yeah, that is a good point. I think it depends on what poll you look at, because a lot of them are age focused, but this one, to your point, Ford, is not. But definitely, Bob, to your point, a difference there.
There is
We'll
a
have
difference.
lots of different opinions there. Want to get to this one. One candidate who seems to be losing reporters, Ron DeSantis. This is not necessarily news, but billionaire and Citadel CEO Ken Griffin says he's sitting on the sidelines of the GOP presidential primary and not supporting DeSantis, who he did back in 2022. Excuse me. Your take on this one, Melanie?
It takes money in order to win elections. And if you have a huge donor that decides to sit on the sidelines, this is not a good thing. But if you are a huge donor, you're looking at, am I going to throw pearls before swine? Am I wasting my money by backing DeSantis? And I think that's going to be a huge problem for the DeSantis campaign and actually for the rest of the people in the primary. I'm all for open and free elections, but let's face it, President Trump has a huge lead, and I'm not sure that it can be overcome.
Okay, Ford, really switching gears right now. It seems that Hollywood is collapsing on itself. Drew Barrymore, bowing to pressure, is putting her show back on hiatus in the wake of the writer's strike. But Bill Maher is going ahead resuming his show. something Keith Olbermann is not happy about. Olbermann tweeting, "Without writers, the new weekly scab edition of Real Time with Bill Maher will be 83 seconds long. As somebody who's known you since 1978, bleep you, Bill, you selfish and unfunny bleep." Ford, your reaction to what's going on in Tinseltown there?
Well, there's no bigger piece of excrement that I know as a commentator than Keith Olbermann. That said, I do have a lot of sympathy for the writers in this strike, because what they're really talking about is residuals. What they're talking about is assurances when it comes to artificial intelligence. Their entire world and their entire future is about to turn upside down. This is not something that's going to end anytime soon. And that's why you see a lot of actors and a lot of film people like The View, like Bill Maher, going back, because they realize that this isn't going to be done in 6 months. At the same time, though, this is something to keep an eye on, because just like EVs and the UAW, this is what's happening in Hollywood as well.
I think that's a great point, Ford, because AI is one of those I'll say necessary evils in depending on what industry you're in, and just it's part of the future. It's kind of saying, okay, well, I'm not going to embrace the internet because I feel threatened by it. But Melanie, at some point you got to say, okay, this is the way of the future. How am I going to work with it as opposed to fight against it?
Kat, you stole my talking point. That's exactly
sorry, Melanie.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that instead of whining about things changing, figure out how you're going to work with it. AI is very innovative, but if you've ever used AI, you know it's not just as simple as saying, write this and write it, and you're going to write something spectacular. You do need to have your own brain behind AI. It doesn't work that way.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Melanie, Collette, Ford, O'Connell, dazzling points as always. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Bob and Katrina.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.